Now, John, I get the impression from talking to you over the years that you've had a few beers in your life. You've hit the party scene. You've did what most of us did when we were young. But now you're in Vegas, and I just don't picture you as a pure Vegas guy. Am I judging you correctly?
Yeah, you are judging me exactly correctly, Jim. You're right. I enjoy a good time. I still do at this advanced age that
Not
I'm
me.
at.
Good times hurt. At a certain age, good times just are. They are the equivalent of like getting beat up by a boxer.
Yes, but the only time literally in my life that I've enjoyed being in Vegas is either, when I'm just at the gym watching basketball, which is cool. I enjoy that. The summer league part, that's cool. But then otherwise, if it's like when I was in my 20s for bachelor parties and I'm with all my friends and we're just going crazy and we're having a great time, we did that a few times. But largely, I really do not like this place. It's everywhere you go, you feel like you're being taken advantage of. They charge you $12 for a Coke in the casinos. Unless you're gambling, and I'm not a gambler at all. You walk the strip kind of at night, and it is a picture of despair, of American kind of collapse, I honestly think. And then especially to be here in July when it's 110 degrees outside is not my favorite place. I do love the basketball. Everything else about this place and this city, I could absolutely never come here again and be deliriously happy about it.
My wife and I have friends who live there, probably our best friends, and we have learned to enjoy Vegas. And what's for us, it's old people Vegas. I know I can't say it about my wife, but I can say it about myself. We love the restaurant. The restaurant scene has gotten much better, and the music acts. We got to see Elton John in a small theater a couple times. Got to see John Fogerty in a small theater. I love Fogerty. He was way better than I expected him to be. And then Cirque du Soleil is amazing. So we do the cliched early evening activities, and then we get the hell out of there.
Yeah, that's the smart thing. Absolutely, because anything I would say Vegas is really weird, Jim, because it will stay open forever, all night long, but only the parts that you want nothing to do with.
That's right.
Like everything else closes early. Like,
yes.
We kind of talk here, with my writer friends, and we, a lot of times we're at the gym late. And so we'll want to grab like just a decent meal, sit down somewhere at like 9 o'clock, 9:30. And you'd think that wouldn't be hard here, but it actually kind of is. Things shut down, like restaurant wise and otherwise around 10 a lot of times, especially during the week. But then, if you want to go clubbing, if you want to be in a pool, and you want to wait in line for 2 hours and have to grease the doorman and get laughed at by kids that are half my age. Yeah, I can do that. If I want to be in a casino gambling my life away, I can do that till all hours. But the shows and the good restaurants where you can sit down and have a good meal, it shuts down early around here. And so you're right. It's definitely on old people time, which is a beautiful thing for me now where I'm at this point in my career.
Yes. Okay. We'll get to basketball now. He's Jon Krawczynski. This is the Jon Krawczynski Show, part of TalkNorth.com. Best way to listen to this show or any of our many shows at TalkNorth.com. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. You know the drill. It's easy. It's free. Why not do it? We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
That first sip of coffee on a summer morning. Sunshine. Caffeine. What's better? How about water so good it makes your coffee jealous? Water from Aquarius, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Enjoy sparkling dishes, cloud-soft laundry, and worry-free water from every faucet. Likely for less than your daily iced coffee. Enjoy up to 25% off a new Connecticut system and schedule your free water analysis at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Hi, everyone. This is Dawn Mitchell with a reminder. Please tune in to our podcast every week, Dawn of Sports. You can find it on Talk North Podcast Network.
Jon Krawczynski Show is also presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages and Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. So let's get to some basketball here. Since we last talked, and of course I was on vacation recently, John handled some things without me. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has left the organization. Take me through that whole process and give me some perspective on what Nickeil brought to the Wolves and what they'll be missing without him.
Yeah, I mean, it was expected, certainly, especially after they signed Naz Reid and Julius Randle to their deals. The Wolves had to make a choice. And what we have seen all around the league this summer is teams having to make choices. Boston, the Clippers just traded Norm Powell. A bunch of teams are letting good players go that they would normally like to keep because of all the restrictions in the collective bargaining agreement that we've kind of discussed ad nauseum around here. So, the Wolves knew that they were going to have to decide, do you want to keep two of the three, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Julius Randle, and Naz Reid? And looking at their roster, they made the decision that they had more depth at the wing kind of combo guard situation with Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon and Jalen Clark than they did at power forward / center. And so, Nickeil, to his credit, came in here to Minnesota as kind of a throw-in in the Conley-D'Angelo Russell trade and turned himself from a player who I think was in danger of getting bounced out of the league. Jim was kind of, he'd been traded a couple of times. He hadn't really gotten much playing time in any of his other stops. And it looked like he was on the brink of having to go overseas and play. And what he did here was turn himself into one of the better bench players in the entire league, an incredibly valuable two-way guard who can, play great defense on the perimeter, knock down shots reliably, and just be kind of that really good spark plug offensively and defensively off the bench. And so, to his credit and to the Wolves' credit for their talent development with Chris Hines, with Chris Finch, with all of the guys that they have that work with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, they helped Nickeil, and Nickeil helped himself become a coveted free agent, a coveted asset on the market. And so he priced himself out of Minnesota, essentially. And, he got to a point where the Hawks wanted to give him just over the mid-level to come and play in Atlanta on a good team in the Eastern Conference that I think has designs on competing and going deep into the playoffs with all the good moves that they've made. And so the Timberwolves helped facilitate that by getting Nickeil a little bit of extra money by making it a sign and trade rather than a straight signing, and then getting a second round pick in return. So good business and, good karma for the Wolves to do that. But, it really just, I think the conversation right now, Jim, is just really a credit to what Nickeil Alexander-Walker meant to this team, to how he literally did sort of pull himself back from the brink of exile in the NBA to becoming a player who gets, I think, 4 years and $62 million, and really just cements his family's future with the way that he played and the way that he worked here. One of my favorite guys to cover, and just one of the really cool success stories that the Timberwolves had in terms of talent development and putting him in the right positions and then him taking advantage of those opportunities. So there's just fewer guys that I've ever covered that I've been happier to see get the bag, to see get rewarded on the open market. But yeah, he'll definitely be missed here next year, and it'll be on these young guys to kind of step up in his place.
A little more on NAW and who will replace him and in what way. We do want to thank our sponsors. Let's start with Giggly THC Beverages. I was just talking to my sister who lives in a different state about Giggly. We were talking about the fact you get to a certain age, maybe not even get to a certain age, maybe any age. Alcohol starts affecting you in certain ways, starts robbing you of sleep, starts leaving you a little sore. Maybe when you wake up, you're not in the best mood, you're not as sharp as you would like to be. That's for me where Giggly THC Beverages and now Giggly chocolates and snacks come in. You're talking about, they have ashwagandha, they have ginseng extract, they're made of fruit juice. It's just like fruit bubbles. They taste great. and they have a little bit of THC in it. There's 10 milligram and 5 milligram drinks. I like the 5 milligrams. You might like 10 if you're really going to have a good time. I'm just looking to relax without having any of the negatives of alcohol. This stuff tastes great. I sleep well. It's also very easy to find. Any Quick Trip is carrying it. A lot of other places are carrying it too, but you can always go to giggly.com, Gigli.com. First time you order, use the promo code GigglyNorth, you get a discount. It's one of those businesses, though, if you pay attention, if you have them in your feed, you'll see discount codes all the time. They'll deliver it right to you. They'll deliver it quickly. You're going to feel better. You're going to enjoy having something that tastes like a cocktail without any of the negatives. I love it. And I would not be saying all these things. So we do these ads a different way if I didn't actually feel this way, but I do. So giggly.com, Giggly North is the promo code. Enjoy it. We also want to hear more about Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood.
That's right, Jim. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than our good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they've got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
What's cool about Nickeil Alexander-Walker's story is that we saw it, we heard it so often from Finch and from his teammates. He was one of those people who committed fully to the career. And, you know, he was careful with his diet. He read a lot of self-motivation and self-help books. He was always in impeccable shape. He worked like crazy in the gym. He played hard. He practiced hard. He did all the right things, and he did the difficult things. And what jumped out at me was the fact that he figured out how to fight through screens, how to get around screens, how to make himself he is a lean guy, but he knew how to make himself skinny to beat screens. That is that is not something you do unless you are very aware of your role and how to seek advantages that not every player seeks.
Yeah, I think that, one of the traits that really helped him in all of those things, which was really well said by you, was humility. And, Chris Finch has told the story before. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has talked about it. He came in to the league out of Kansas as a first-round draft pick, lower in the first round, but still a first-round draft pick. And I think that he initially, like so many players, young players, thought that he would make his mark on this league as a scorer, as a go-to guy, as the one with the ball in his hands all the time, shooting threes, getting to the basket, doing all of those things. When he got to New Orleans, it became clear fairly early that was not a great role for him, or that he was not fully capable of that. And he had a hard time accepting that initially. And then he gets traded and he's in Utah and he's not playing very much in Utah. And he comes to Minnesota. And I think by the time he got here, he had taken some lumps from an ego standpoint. And rather than be bitter and rather than sort of blame other people for not giving him the right opportunities or overlooking him, instead, he looked inward and said, okay, I have to change things and I have to do things differently if I want to stick around in this league. And that what he did then was embrace the difficult, grimy stuff. The navigating screens, the guarding multiple defenders, the just digging into your work and your conditioning and all of the things that are really hard that are not going to get you onto the SportsCenter top 10, but will, as we found out, get you a valuable place, not just on any team, but on a 2-time Western Conference finalist. The other thing that is remarkable about Nickeil Alexander-Walker is he didn't miss a game in 2 years. He was incredibly durable. Part of that certainly is injury luck, but I think part of that also is in the way that he attacked taking care of his body, eating right, as you said, Jim, getting into the gym and getting extra shots up and being in great shape. If you ask any player on any team in the league, they'll say, yeah, I'm the first one in and the last one out. Nickeil actually talk the talk and walk the walk in that regard. If you talk to any of his teammates, he was always the first one in. He was getting multiple workouts in. He got himself a routine down, and he just adhered to that. He also, Jim, really, I think, embraced the mental health component of being an NBA player and trying to understand himself, because he would ride the roller coaster quite a bit emotionally early on in his career. And I think that when he was feeling down, that almost made matters worse. It just, whatever he was struggling with, shooting, turnovers, missed assignments, whatever, if he was down about it, then all of a sudden he was, he was turning a tough situation into a terrible situation. He started to kind of really figure out how to deal with the mental side of the equation, how to get out of his own head, how not to obsess over things too much when he didn't have to, or when it was time to be like, yeah, I'm in a real funk. I've got to recommit to whatever I'm doing and change some things up with my routine and dig into this, or I've just got to let this slide. It's not the end of the world. I'll get back at it. And so his ability to recognize what he needed as a player, both emotionally, physically, mentally, all of those things, I was just incredibly impressed with. There's very few guys I've been around that have really been so in tune with their body, mind, and soul. And I know that sounds like it's kind of, very out there and going too far, but that's not it. That's Nickeil. Like, that's who he was and who he is. And so I just really enjoyed watching him figure that stuff out and navigate it and, deal with the ups and downs. And he was so, Jim, the other part about him, I just ramble because I love Nickeil, but like, he let us all in as fans, as writers, as teammates, as coaches. He was an open book in terms of what he was feeling, how he was dealing with it, the good, the bad, the ugly. And he was just so revealing and so vulnerable as an interview subject. And I really do think that is one of the reasons so many fans connected with him. They loved what he did on the court, but they also felt like they knew a little bit about him and his struggle and his successes. And because every interview was him opening a vein. And if you asked him a deep question, he was going to get deep with you. And so just that transparency and that willingness to share was, just a revelation for me as a writer, covering him and documenting him and understanding him. And I think that because we understood him, then the fans understood him as well. And it worked out just incredibly well for both sides.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. It's life changing to get the big deal. He got the big deal. I'm sure he would have rather gotten it here, but he'll be okay. He'll be okay, yeah. And he's going to be a key player on a good team. And he did make his way here. Cool stuff. Let's talk about how they replace him, who may replace him. First, I want to remind you our original sponsor for the show, TSR Injury Law, 612 TSR Time. They've been with us the whole time. We love them. We love what they do. We love how they help people. If you're ever injured, call 612 TSR Time, 612 TSR Time. And this is a real Minnesota company. They started here. They stayed here. They help locally. It's not a national company coming in and pretending that they love all the local sports teams. Steve Terry and his buddies and his partners, they've all been Timberwolves fans for a long time, even during the dark times, and they stuck through it. So just remember, reward the right people. If you ever need this kind of help, call 612 TSR Time, 612 TSR Time. Thanks also to Royal Credit Union.
It's time for change. Experience better banking and put your financial goals in motion with Royal Credit Union. It's time to get more from your checking account, upgrade your vehicle, or finally build your dream home. Royal offers the financial solutions you need and the advice you can trust to plan for what's next. Better banking is one change away. It's time to switch to Royal Credit Union. Get started at rcu.org/time. Insured by NCUA. Loan subject to credit approval. Equal housing opportunity.
Now let's hear about Princeton's Liquors.
Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove, Bill Princeton and the Princeton family. We've been telling you about them for a long time. They've been great supporters of this show, but they're also great supporters just of the community in general. They are another family business, local business that we just take pride in connecting with, in doing business with, in representing them. And you go to Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove, bourbon and craft beer are their specialties, but man, there are so much more. You need wine, you need any kind of liquor, you need any kind of THC seltzers, you want just regular seltzers, anything that you want, it's at Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. Great prices, both on the high end, on the more affordable end of things, just a wide selection and a wide variety. And, if you have your choice of picking up something to drink for a summer weekend, for hanging out on your deck, or, having some people over, why not go local with Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove?
Okay, so NAW is gone. Is it as simple? Well, I know the answer to the question. It's not as simple as just having one player replace him, just having Terrence Shannon Jr. step in, because you're going to see more Rob Dillingham. You also might see some Jalen Clark. So how does all that balance out? How do those three key young players end up replacing Nickeil Alexander-Walker, if I'm on the right track?
Yeah, I think you are on the right track. But I'm fascinated by how they're going to do this, Jim, because, we talked so much last year about the 8-man rotation and why isn't Finch playing the young guys and why isn't he playing these young guys? Well, one of the reasons he wasn't playing some of these young guys was that A, Nickeil Alexander-Walker was really, really good, but B, he checked so many different boxes. Mm-hmm. Perimeter defender, outside shooter, kind of at least could create a little bit of offense for you, could get out in transition, could just do a wide array of things all really well. One thing, elite perimeter defense. I think he was elite perimeter defender. Other things were good to really good. This kind of group of players who are going to be tasked with taking those 25 to 27 minutes per night all can kind of do their own things really well, but we haven't seen any of them check all of the boxes the way that Nickeil does. And so in that way, I don't necessarily think it's going to be, well, Terrence Shannon Jr., here's your 25 minutes a night for the most part. I think that you're going to see Chris Finch mix and match more depending on what is needed night in and night out. Maybe it's Terrence Shannon in transition, kind of bowling ball to the rim, physicality on offense. Maybe it's Jalen Clark's real lockdown perimeter defense and just positioning and ability to guard multiple positions and all of those things. Maybe it's Rob Dillingham's electricity and shot creation and things of that nature. So none of these three guys just fits the Nickeil Alexander-Walker mold perfectly. They all do their own things and they all do it in different ways. And so I think Chris Finch is going to mix and match them just a lot more than what we saw last year, which was a pretty, kind of etched in stone 8-man rotation. And I think, ultimately that's probably going to be a good thing in general. If you can get to 9.5 guys in a rotation in the regular season, give yourself different looks, give these guys some playing time that they deserve. It will allow a team that right now is largely run it back, almost that 7 of the top 8 guys are back, 11 of the top 13 are back. And so you think, well, how are they going to do things differently to have a chance to compete against Oklahoma City or, Denver and Houston, who are both improved? Well, the answer is that maybe these young guys just give you a different dimension, and it won't be the exact same thing as Nickeil, but it could still be in the aggregate as good or better than what they had before. But we just really have to see it. We don't really know how this is all going to look, how these guys are going to handle their responsibilities and have it on their shoulders. But they are not without options. And so that's, to me, kind of the super intriguing and exciting part about going into next season, is seeing how Chris Finch fits all of those guys in and tries to use their strengths to the best of their ability.
I felt like last year, right when I was at my most intrigued and excited about Jalen Clark, it felt like Terrence Shannon Jr. passed him in terms of priority. Did they find out anything negative about Jalen Clark, or was it that they thought Shannon was a better player or a better fit in those moments?
Yeah, I think it was more the latter, Jim. I think that just Terrence Shannon Jr. is a much more natural offensive player and scorer. And I think in those moments where Shannon really played well, including in the playoffs, what the Wolves were struggling with the most was, how do we keep up offensively with Oklahoma City? How do we do things to kind of, make it harder on the Warriors or the Lakers whenever he got those minutes? And even in the regular season as well, when it was Shannon time, it was, all right, go out there and break stuff. Like, get this offense out of the mud and make something happen. Clark, offensively, I thought really exceeded my expectations.
Me too.
I didn't think that he was going to be as effective as he was. Credit to him for that. He shot the ball well, but he is more of a guy who needs to play off of other people in the offense, and catch and shoot, cut to the basket and get the right pass at the right time, score at the rim, those types of things. It's valuable. I think he really does bring something there. He's not just a one-dimensional defensive player, but Shannon is a little bit more capable of just doing things on his own. And so I think that element was something that was really missing at those moments where they went to Shannon. I still think that there were times, Jim, and there will be times going forward, where Finch could have gone back to Clark a little bit more than he did. And hopefully the worst thing that could happen, I think, is that all three of those guys, but particularly Shannon and Clark, are just competing for one spot and one spot only. And you're either not playing at all and you're out of the rotation, or you're in it and playing 20, 23 minutes a night. I'm hoping that Chris Finch can find ways to utilize them both. And you can't play 10, 11 guys every night, but finding ways to kind of more regularly mix the two of them in, depending on what's needed night to night. I think that would help this team a bit, and it would certainly help the young players who just need to be out there and need to feel that intensity and make stuff happen. So, but yeah, I just think, I do think if you're putting a pecking order right now as we go into Las Vegas and as we probably eventually transition into training camp, I think Shannon will be ahead of Clark on the hierarchy, but I don't think that means that Clark has to be just out of the rotation or way behind. I think that there are going to be opportunities to use both of them, and I hope Chris Finch does it.
And two other factors here. If the Wolves get off to a better start, have a better first half of the season, and if they take care of business against bad teams and get up by 15, 20 points, then it's really easy to play more players.
Agreed. And so two branches off of that. One is, I do think that there's a possibility that they could play better next year against those struggling teams if you play the young guys more.
Yeah.
If you put Dillingham, Shannon, Clark out there a little bit more, the hungrier guys, the ones that just want to get let off the leash and get on the floor. I think those guys are the players who are less likely to take for granted Toronto, Charlotte, Utah, whoever, and more likely to say, I don't care who we're playing, I just need to get out there and show what I can do. And so I think that will help. The other part of it, though, Jim, is that I think this is set up, barring, and we could get a little bit later into this show, we can get into maybe the other options that are still out there to add free agency wise. But right now, this is set up to where even if those struggles do happen early in the season, I think it's incumbent on Chris Finch to just play these guys and let them go through it and let them learn and be okay with taking a few lumps if you believe in these guys and say, you know what, if October and November are a little shaky, but we can use that learning experience to get to February and March being much better and everyone being more comfortable, that might be the way to go this time around. And they may not have another choice. You may just have to throw these guys out there and say, we are going to live with some of your mistakes. And yes, there's a lot riding on it, but there's also a lot riding on you guys not developing. We need you out there. And so I think that's another aspect that you'll be watching, where even if it's not good early, you got to stick with it, man. You just got to let these guys play and figure things out.
Let's get to J free agency and the final Twitter question, which is sponsored by Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line. First, though, let's hear about True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington. Go to truevision.com. I've been telling you about it for more than a year now. I've been glasses free and contacts free, and it's been so great. I was just this last weekend for the 4th of July at my brother-in-law's cabin with the entire family. Could jump in the water without having to worry about having, my contacts getting gummy in the water or having to jump in and then grab sunglasses that are prescription to put on so I could see things. I was just in there having a great time. Went tubing with the family, with the kids, and just out on the open water splashing in my face. Nothing wrong at all with my vision. Could still see incredibly clearly. It's been a life-changing thing. I know I've told you this, but I'm telling you this over and over again because I heard it from other people and I didn't listen to it. Go to truevision.com, set up your consultation, get in there and just talk over your options with the great folks at True Vision. You will feel welcomed, you will feel cared for, you will feel educated on all of your options. And if you do go with LASIK surgery like I did, you will not regret it. It will be one of the best things you've ever done for yourself. It certainly has been for me. TrueVision.com, True Vision in Bloomington.
Thanks also to Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line. And we will do a Twitter question sponsored by SG later in the show.
SGLambchops.com. Just quickly, JONK20 is 20% off anything you get at Lamb Chops. I'm going to be wearing one of their t-shirts and some of their shorts out here in Vegas when it's hot out, but I'm going to feel good wearing that. It's going to be comfortable. It's also going to be stylish. They have t-shirts, hoodies, pants, sweatpants, sweaters, all the kind of casual wear that you could want at SGLambchops.com. JONK20, 20% off anything at Lamb Chops. And you want to know what Jordan Craig and the guys at Lamb Chops are all about in terms of supporting local teams. They are going to be out here in Las Vegas at Summer League. They're going to have a little meetup with Wolves fans out here because they just want to be a part of this community and they want to support it. And so we should return the favor going to SGLambchops.com, promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything that you get there, and buy their stuff and look good doing it and supporting a local company that's given back quite a bit to the basketball community here.
Do you think there is room under the salary cap and willingness to go out and spend more money and bring in another free agent?
I do think there is willingness. I think they want to be careful with it, Jim, in terms of what their options are, in terms of who they would go and get. But right now, I do think they're still looking at two positions primarily. They're looking at backup center now that Luka Garza is in Boston. If you get an injury to Rudy Gobert, you're a little bit thin up front unless you want to play Yohan Berenger, the 18-year-old, right away. They're also looking at point guard, at ball handler, and a couple of names that are out there. Malcolm Brogdon is out there. Campaign is out there. You know would be fun, Jim, I think, is Jordan McLaughlin is still out there. He's been in this system. He's played. He's a good teammate. You know that he won't rock the boat if he's not out there, but you know that if you need him in a pinch for a few minutes here, for a few minutes there, for a few games here, for a few games there, he can come in and run this offense and run it effectively. And that's the kind of player that they're looking for. So I wouldn't completely rule something like that out. Two other bigger names that are out there that Wolves have been semi-linked to in reporting: Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal. Dame is going to miss probably all of this year with an Achilles tear. Maybe comes back at the toward the playoffs. I would think if you wanted to go after Dame, and I think that they've at least checked in on Dame's interest in Minnesota. I think that you would look at a scenario where you get him on a 2-year deal. If he gets back toward the playoffs, and you could use him at all, great, but it would mostly be for next season, after Mike Conley presumably maybe retires or his contract runs out. And so maybe you have a player like that available. I think it's a very long shot. I don't think Dame wants to be too far away from his family in Portland. And that was a sticking point in Milwaukee. And so Minneapolis isn't much closer. So there would be a lot to work through, but I think that I would expect the Wolves to at least check in and see. Bradley Beal's another one. He is expected to be bought out here and clear waivers. And the Wolves, I think, would look into him because he's the most talented player available who would be willing to play for something that they could spend. He's kind of more of a combo guard like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, not as good defensively, much better offensively. So it would be worth at least checking in on. Again, another long shot, I think, in terms of his interest in coming to Minnesota, but he knows what it's like to play against Anthony Edwards. He has a lot of respect for Ant. He knows that there is a spot that's kind of open in the rotation, or at least for him to come and kind of get some minutes here. So that might be intriguing. But another name where I would think that, yes, the Wolves will look into it and see if there's any interest. But again, a long shot for him to be a part of. I think more likely someone like Malcolm Brogdon, someone like Campaign, even someone like Jordan McLaughlin, and kind of lesser known player who could come in here and just get minutes here and there if needed or in case of emergency is a real possibility for the Timberwolves still as the summer goes on here.
Interesting. And of course, they bring somebody like that, then there are probably fewer minutes available for the young guys.
Yeah, there would be, but I think that it certainly if Beal comes in, that's a game changer in terms of rotation minutes and filling in. You would expect him to step right in and play 25 minutes or more per night right into that Nickeil Alexander-Walker spot. But, if it's Lillard, obviously he's out entirely for us. So there's plenty of minutes. But also, even if it's Brogdon, Campaign, McLaughlin, those kind of that ilk, I still think that you can say to them, hey, we want to play these young guys. We don't have guaranteed minutes available for you. So, but we'll give you the opportunity if things go wrong or if you earn it. If you just outplay Dillingham or outplay Mike Conley and you're ready to go, we'll give you that shot. They can say that. And so that would be the way that I would play it with any sort of recruiting of those guys. And I do think that's why some guys Mason Plumlee signed with Charlotte at the veteran minimum rather than Minnesota. Minnesota had interest. Several other teams had interest in him. And I think he looked at Charlotte as, hey, I can go get minutes there for sure. Here in Minnesota, I'd probably need an injury to Reed or Gobert or Randall to get any run there. And so that's why they haven't been able to snatch anyone up immediately on the open market, because the minutes are negligible or are not guaranteed. And so the other guys may just have to miss out on other options and not have many others before they kind of swallow pride and take a look here in Minnesota. But I still, with anyone outside of Bradley Beal, I would not forsake minutes of the young guys for Malcolm Brogdon, for Campaign, for McLaughlin, for any of these other guys that are out there available. I don't think they're good enough to guarantee that, because I think you want Dillingham, Shannon, Clark to get run and develop, because they've shown potential, and that's what you want to work on and get them more involved.
We were going to talk about Baron J. Let's save that for a week.
We can do that next week. Yeah.
I think we'll have some really good stuff that John's working on to talk about there. Let's wrap up today's show with the Shepherd Goods Lamb Chops clothing line Twitter question of the day.
Yeah, this one comes from Chris Lupus on Twitter, and he kind of started harkens back to where we started the show with NAW leaving and everyone seemingly loving to cover him. Do you have a short list of Wolves players you've loved covering as people through the years? And yeah, I think Nikhil is definitely near the top of the list. Ricky Rubio is obviously right near the top of it as a great, just human being, good guy to cover. I loved covering Cat. I think he's a genuinely good person with a good heart, and really kind of was accessible and open that way. I love Jordan McLaughlin as a dude, just as a good guy to cover. Well, less so than just the player. Mike Conley is an all-time awesome guy and personality to work with. And if you go back a little further, I'm trying to go with a little bit deeper cuts. Even Brandon Roy was awesome in his very short time here as a person to cover. Pekovic, I know he's dealt with plenty of kind of dark, shady kind of actions in his retirement and in his native country, Montenegro. But as a person here, he was awesome, like super cool, super fun to be around. So those are some names that come to mind that I really enjoyed chatting with, getting to know, talking about over the years. There's plenty more that have come through that been lucky to get to know.
Cool. Good stuff. We will get more into the summer league, the young players, and the draftees, how that's all going to play out, what their future looks like. For today, thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks to everyone who listens. We do appreciate it. Check out the Viking Update Show. John's also part of that. We've got a lot of football shows now. We have a lot of hockey shows. This is our basketball show. And also had a really good show with Don Mitchell this week. Kat Perkins, the great singer, was our guest this week. So we have a lot to offer at talknorth.com. Check it all out. We appreciate you listening to the Jon Krawczynski Show, and we will talk to you next week.